My name is Sammay, Samantha Peñaflor Dizon. I'm a healer, artivist, and truth speaker. I revel in the intersections of dance, performance ritual, theater, music, and multimedia. I'm from Carson, California. I'm really proud to be from Carson, so I just always I'm like, yeah, I'm from Carson. I love getting this question. I was just growing up in, I think, a place and time where being Filipino was normal. There was just this natural way in which we just celebrated who we are, who we were. But it was like Jollibee, it was Red Ribbon, it was Seafood City, it was Tambuli Market, it was St. Philomena Church every Sunday, if not always Saturday, if not Tuesday for catechism. Like, we were just all frequenting the same places because of those cultural ties that we had to those spots. And it was just kind of this like natural, organic, like, I'm Filipino, you're Filipino, our parents are probably friends, and if they're not already, they're gonna be. So that was a really good way for me to grow up, especially as a daughter of immigrants. My parents came here in the 80s. It was a lot of knowing my cultural identity from an early age, but I would say it was knowing that cultural identity without so much the history and the socio-political factors and the truths really of what it means to be Filipino, what it means to be Fil-Am. I first started singing, I would see my older sister on the magic mic, on the karaoke, and everyone would like ask her to sing when we were like really early youth, and I just wanted to be like her, was like one thing. And so I started also like singing, and that was also my like real introduction to hip hop and growing up in Carson and watching MTV every day was like those things in a dynamic relationship together. And I always knew I wanted to do hip hop. That was like ever since I was young. So in high school, I found actually musical theater, which was huge because that's when I started to combine the singing and dancing, and I didn't know it as art, like dance and singing were just like kind of these things I loved to do, I knew I was passionate about. But for my parents, of course, were always things that had to be on the side or had to be extracurricular. Very common story for the model minority. And when I had graduated from college at UC Berkeley, I went to a summer leadership institute run by urban bushwomen. The first time I was in a room of almost all women of color, mostly Black. Each person identified to some extent as an artist, cultural worker, activist, community leader, or scholar. And so being in that room was actually the catalyst moment for me to realize that what I was doing and what I wanted to move towards, that trajectory that was really meant for me, was to be an artist and to use these gifts and talents and experiences that I had just been doing just naturally growing up to really realize how to just be a vessel, be a conduit, and have the art speak and have the message within the art. I think when I first started to really make art, I was just coming from my personal experience, and Urban and Indigenous was one of the very first projects I put out because I was in this deep inquiry and investigation for myself around my own indigeneity and how that plays in my life, in the urban environment, and how just my journey of decolonizing and healing and working towards re-indigenization. How do we sustain ourselves? How do we get in right relationship with Mother Earth in this really, really crucial time in our humanity? Within my artistic practice, it honestly just requires a lot of me just sitting. But it really requires me to sit with my ancestors, sit with spirit, and just listen deeply as to what is needed, what is necessary. It's now a responsibility that I have to be a conduit for whatever needs to come through, whatever messages or whatever stories need to be told. So that is a really key part of my process, is just tuning in. Urban and Indigenous, the name itself, was coined by my mentor, Jack Gray. He was a big figure for me, continues to be, but was really that warrior spirit that helped me to understand that I had Indigenous roots. Being Indigenous was not one thing, but it was really about how do I facilitate, how do I manage, how do I move through this tension of honoring the Indigenous, honoring my Indigenous lineage, and also honoring that I don't live on my land. I don't live in a place where there are the teachers that can directly transmit to me our ancient traditions of Bicol, Kapampangan, and Ilocano. I always center the fact that I'm here because Soma is here. I'm here because Soma Pilipinas is present and vibrant and full of creative beings who've already paved the way and already made space. Community is why I decided to be an artist or to pursue this path. Community is why I do art. Community is who I do art for, and that's been a really interesting tension for me, because artists are the heart of revolution, and artists are the voices of the stories untold. And I think in a lot of ways it's why I really choose to work here in Bendo Stiff, because my peoples are gonna come here, and really for me, what I'm trying to understand is how to do it all and thrive. I think a big challenge of being an artist, of doing the work that I do, of constantly choosing to be in community and to show up in a way that feels most authentic to me, requires a lot of sacrifice, and I'm trying to really come from a place where I know that I can be an artist and abundant. I'm basically continuing to say no. I'm continuing to say no. I will not be pushed out. I will not be in a place where I have to move. I'm going to continue to thrive. I'm also a teaching artist, and I get to work with the most amazing young ancestors in San Francisco. Every time we finally get to kind of swerve and veer away from the regular curriculum and do something that is more in my practice, every time I get to see them create and do something that they've never done before in this life, I just it's an immediate gift back to all of it, And sometimes, I think about what is possible in this lifetime. And I remember that each ancestor that's come before me has dreamt something for our generation, and that we're a generation continuing that, and that there will be the next generation that will continue that. And I think that in itself is always just a grounding tool to remember there's no need to burn out. There's no need to try to reach every single pinnacle possible in this lifetime, but to really just be in alignment and to be fully in my role and my purpose, my higher proposal. Like, that is actually what's going to propel forth the work that's needed for the liberation and healing and transformation.
The times I am, maybe you'll show up, lighting up the sky. How I get so high, I ignite this fire, but still I just have this one desire. Oh, can you write it